So those are the headlines. Good to have you with us. And today we start the programme here in Paris because the city's mayor, Anne Hidalgo, took a long-awaited dip into the River Seine this morning in a bid to prove that the water is clean enough to host the outdoor swimming events at the Olympics later this month. Well, it's a historic scene since swimming has actually been prohibited for almost a century. And until recently, the water in the Seine had repeatedly failed daily quality tests. But now it seems to be better. Time now to bring in our science editor, Julia Seeger. Julia, first of all, then, it's been quite a long-standing aim amongst French politicians to make the capital's river safe to swim in again.
Indeed, it is a political aim, as you say. Swimming in the Seine River to prove that it's actually clean goes back to late President Jacques Chirac in 1990, who made it a campaign promise and who vowed to bathe in it. Then, of course, French President Emmanuel Macron has also promised to do so. And ahead of the Olympic Games, Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, said she would do so. And today she did indeed do it. Now, she decided to use a ladder, as you can see on those pictures, to get into the Seine River. And the reason why is perhaps to avoid the situation that the French sports minister, Amélie Oudéa-Castéra, got herself into when she herself decided also to take a dip into the Seine River. But Angela, what was supposed to be a slick piece of PR actually turned into, as you're seeing, an awkward tumble into the water. Now, it's not just a French obsession. In India, the chief minister of Punjab actually decided to drink water from a local river in 2022. The goal was to prove that it was indeed clean, but it was also holy, and that didn't end up well for him because he ended up hospitalized with intestinal problems.
Whoa. And today, for Anne Hidalgo, is the water clean enough?
Well, according to the latest readings, the water is quite clean, but it's only been the case for 2 to 3 days. And that's because the weather has been nicer. There's more sunlight, so that can help get rid of some bacteria on the surface. Now, authorities are focusing on bacterial pollution. So they're looking at E. coli concentrations, but also enterococci. Now, according to European standards in fresh waters, there are certain thresholds you can't go above. So if you actually look at E. coli, it's 1,800 CFU. That sounds for colony forming units. So that's just the unit we use to measure the concentration. And for enterococci, it's 660. And according to the latest reading on July 4th, it's as you can see on the right-hand side, 890 CFU for E. coli and 290 for enterococci. So it's way below what is required. Now, if you actually look back on what happened a couple of months ago, you can actually see that the variations in the concentrations have changed quite a bit. So if you look at this chart on the red line being the level not to exceed in terms of E. coli and the yellow line being the level not to exceed with enterococci, you can see that since October, we've actually surpassed it many times before. So it's important to say that it really changes, and it can change not only from one week to another, but from one day to another.
And the quality really depends on lots of different factors.
That's right. So, of course, wastewater discharges, but also industrial activity and river traffic. But perhaps the most important point is the urban runoff. This is when the rainwater is going to run off the impermeable surfaces of the city and bring all kinds of pollutant from the city into the river. Now, the city of Paris has made a lot of efforts. They've injected 1.4 billion euros into this. They've modernized wastewater treatment plants, but they've also connected barges to sewer systems. And perhaps the most impressive project is the retention basin of rain that you can see here that could help reduce the runoff. But no matter what, as I said, we won't know until the last minute, the day before perhaps, whether the sporting events will be able to be held in the Seine River.
And if the pollution level rises again, as it might do, what are the health risks if that happens?
So gastrointestinal infections, of course, everything having to do with skin and eye, ear, and throat infections. But perhaps the most surprising would be leptospirosis, which is the rat disease, as we call it. It's a serious bacterial infection that's transmitted by the urine of rats, and we know that there's a rat issue in Paris. So that could actually be an issue, and especially if the city of Paris decides to have these permanent swimming stations as it wishes to do after the Olympic Games, then when there's a prolonged exposure, that can be a problem.
OK, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed at least until the Olympics. Thanks very much, Julia.